Namaste, everyone. I'm really grateful for all the very kind words of encouragement I've received lately, after some minor health issues have temporarily stopped most of my teaching and video production activities. Many of you already know about my problem with chronic dizziness. Actually, being dizzy all the time is not the main problem. It's all the brain fog and the extreme fatigue that comes with it. I can teach or work at a computer when I'm a bit dizzy, but not when I'm exhausted or when I can't think clearly. I do have access to good medical care, but it'll take a while for the doctors to get everything sorted out. Of course, many kinds of medical problems are far worse than this one. Some are life-threatening, and others can cause constant severe pain. But this dizziness isn't serious, and it's not painful at all, except when I get a bit clumsy and bump into something. On the other hand, any kind of chronic illness can completely disrupt your life. It can force you into premature retirement or prevent you from doing all the things you love, like going for a walk on a beautiful day. That's probably why many kinds of chronic illness, including dizziness, can lead to frustration, anxiety, and even depression. Doctors refer to these add-on problems as comorbidities. But I don't feel frustrated or depressed or anything like that. In fact, being dizzy all the time reminds me of long train rides in India when I used to travel there. On overnight journeys, I loved being rocked to sleep like a baby. As for other problems like constant brain fog and fatigue, my practice of Advaita Vedanta has helped me tremendously. In fact, it's helped me in ways I never anticipated. And it's given me some new insights about acceptance and resiliency in dealing with chronic illness. I'd like to share some of those insights with you here. Let's talk about resiliency first. A while ago, my assistant asked me, "Swamiji, what would you do if you couldn't teach Vedanta and meditate every day?" Back then, I said, "I don't know, but I'll figure it out when the time comes." Well, now I do know. These days, when I sit down to meditate, all this brain fog and fatigue makes it impossible for me to practice the techniques I've used for so many years. Every day, I would use certain yogic techniques to concentrate my attention and silence my mind, and then I would practice nididhyasana, Vedantic contemplation. But all that requires a bright, clear mind and lots of mental energy that I simply don't have lately. So I had to change my meditation practice entirely. Instead of starting by concentrating my attention and silencing my mind, I now begin with Sakshi Bhava, observing the sensations in my body and the activities of my mind. Then, instead of practicing nididhyasana, I now practice different kinds of upasana, devotional techniques that open my heart and allow me to become completely immersed in divine love. It took me several months to shift away from my old routine and develop this new one. But lately, I'm actually meditating much longer than I used to, twice a day, partly because I enjoy it so much, and partly because it's therapeutic. This complete shift in my meditation practice is an example of flexibility or resilience. Resilience is your ability to adapt to change, to make adjustments in your life in response to all the problems and challenges that inevitably come up. To be resilient, it's important not to get stuck in a rut or to become emotionally dependent on a particular routine. Rigid habits and being strongly attached to certain activities can make it difficult for you to adjust when circumstances unexpectedly disrupt your comfortable lifestyle. Many people fear drastic changes in life, especially ones that are forced upon you by unforeseen problems like chronic illness. No doubt these changes can be extremely difficult to cope with, and yet having your life turned upside down by a crisis can also have unexpected good consequences. It can shake you out of comfortable routines and habitual ways of thinking. It can even open your eyes to entirely new perspectives on your life. In my case, I would probably never have tried any of the wonderful new meditation practices that I'm using now if I didn't have this dizziness. So even though change brings new challenges and difficulties, it can also bring new opportunities as well. I witnessed an amazing example of this about 30 years ago when I visited a unique Christian ashram in a little village near Trichy in Tamil Nadu, South India. It was the ashram of Father Bede Griffiths. He was an 87-year-old Catholic Benedictine monk from England who had lived in India since 1955. He was drawn to India by his fascination with Hindu monastic life, the life of sannyasa, and also by his deep interest in Advaita Vedanta. When I met him, he was lying on a wooden cot in a thatched cottage while he was recovering from a major stroke that almost killed him. I was shocked when he told me that the stroke was the best thing that ever happened to him. It gave him some kind of spiritual awakening in which he felt overwhelmed by divine love. When he thought he was about to die, he surrendered himself to the Mother, which is what he called the feminine aspect of God. And that opened the deeply repressed feminine side of his own personality, the part that was more intuitive and receptive. In spite of his poor health, he was filled with enthusiasm as he explained all this to me, a young sannyasi from America that he had never met before. That meeting with him long ago turned out to be a great blessing for me decades later. It helped me see my chronic dizziness not as a disability, but as an opportunity for a new kind of spiritual growth. Okay, let's talk about acceptance now. In particular, acceptance of problems like old age and chronic illness that can significantly limit your activities. You might have heard the well-known serenity prayer that says you should gracefully accept the things in life that you cannot change. Well, you can't change the basic human condition that's subject to illness, old age, and death. But how can you possibly accept these if they make you suffer in misery? Suffering itself is insufferable. You can't simply choose or decide to accept it. Fortunately, it is indeed possible to age gracefully without feeling miserable. It's possible to die in peace without suffering. And it's possible to accept chronic illness without a trace of unhappiness, distress, or resentment. How? Well, you have to discover that you are absolutely okay in spite of illness, aging, and death. You have to fully understand that all these problems only affect your body and mind, not you, not your essential nature. In other words, you have to realize your true self, Atma, as being pure, unchanging consciousness, a fundamental and transcendent reality that's utterly unaffected by the problems of your body and mind. Of course, this realization is the ultimate goal of the practice of Advaita Vedanta. Vedantic teachings can guide you through a process of self-inquiry and lead you to personally realize your true divine nature. This realization is not a matter of belief or blind faith. You have to discover it for yourself. Now, this isn't the time and place for a long lecture on Advaita Vedanta, but let's look briefly at a basic principle that's important here. The principle is this: anything that you identify with, anything that you consider to be me or mine, like your physical body, definitely will become a source of suffering. Let me explain. Suppose your car is parked outside a store while you're shopping, and when you return, you discover that your car has been badly damaged by a careless driver. Seeing all the damage, you might get upset or even angry. Yet, if it was someone else's car that had been badly damaged, you wouldn't be upset at all. But if it's my car, you get the idea. On the other hand, suppose you happen to be an enlightened car owner, so to speak. That means you're not identified with your car. So it's not my car, it's just a vehicle. It's a thing made of steel and plastic that's used to move around in. As an enlightened car owner, instead of getting upset when you see all the damage, your attitude would be perfectly objective and pragmatic. You'd simply take the car to a repair shop to get it fixed. In this way, being enlightened can turn an irritating problem into an ordinary situation that you handle pragmatically without getting upset. This metaphor shows what happens due to identification with your physical body. If you consider your body to be me or mine, then it will make you suffer. If you have a migraine, you don't say, "This head has stabbing pain." You say, "I have a headache. I am in pain. I am miserable." But suppose you're enlightened, the enlightened owner of your own body. Then it's not my body, it's just a vehicle, a thing made of flesh and bone that's used to move around. And like any vehicle, your body needs maintenance and repairs from time to time. So, as an enlightened owner of a body, you can simply take it to a doctor's office or a hospital when necessary. Of course, your car will eventually get old and unreliable. Then, when you have to take it to the repair shop again and again, you'll know that it's time to get rid of it. But getting rid of your old car is not something to fear or regret. You'll actually look forward to the day when you no longer bear the responsibility for taking care of it all the time. The day when you can finally rest in peace, metaphorically speaking. This is how you will look upon old age and death when your practice of Advaita Vedanta finally leads you to discover your true divine nature, Atma, and you realize that you are indeed okay, no matter what.